Hello everyone, TMMgamer here, and today I have the pleasure of bringing you something a little bit different. Now today's commentary is going to be a little bit more focused on which team I'm going to be playing with, because last commentary, I think it was, or the commentary before, I left you guys a question asking for you to give me some teams you wanted to play with, perhaps some teams you were struggling a bit with, to try and get some formation ideas out there, get some personnel ideas out there, so you can improve and begin to win with those teams that you were struggling with. And as you can see here, today's episode is going to be with Manchester City. I'm playing 4-2-2-2, and the lineup is there if you want to have a look at it. So let's dive straight in. And I made a complete amateurish error before this. I was recording the live commentary. I got to half time. I was 3-0 up, playing really well. It was a good example of how to use the formation. And I looked at Sony Vegas and realised that I hadn't turned my mic on it. My mic was in fact muted, and I have wasted that game. But I managed to force the guy to rage quit early in the second half, and I'm getting straight back on the train here. So fingers crossed I can actually record this commentary without any major bloopers occurring. So, setting your sights quite low, but we'll see how it goes. Now, one thing I do want to quickly mention is, if you guys do have any more teams that you want to recommend to me, and before you say, a team, go check out my previous 2 commentaries, check the comments there, and if there isn't a team there that you want me to do, I'll be quite happy to do it. So just drop a message, whatever, and I'll dive in and do that. But let's talk a little bit about Manchester City. Before I dive into the formation, I just want to talk a little bit about the personnel, but 1 second here, I'm just going to line up a shot with Yaya. That's going to be a free corner. But yeah, Manchester City, like most 5-star teams, are very, very versatile. You see a couple of teams with a lot of players in the mid to low 80s, and then one guy who's like a 77 rated or whatever, and he's really not that good in comparison to everyone else. So, I dallied too long there. I should have got a shot on target. That was a dally. And now Hulk is bursting. Oh, that was fortunate while in Vanson. But yeah, they really do have a very, very nice balance to the side. If you look at the back four, they've got Clichy, they've got Lescott. I've decided to play him instead of Nastasic, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But they've got Clichy, Lescott and company, and then on the right they've got Pablo Zabaleta. So that's 4 very, very solid defenders. Now, the reason why I've decided to go with Lescott instead of... Oh, that was unlucky. Instead of Nastasic is because Nastasic has a rating of 77, and against the very, very best teams online, that isn't enough. You get some strikers. If you're up against a Messi or Ronaldo, you really will notice having a 77 rated defender at the back. So that extra couple of points, I think it's 4 points actually, that Lescott gives you, good save, is really, really useful. So he's nice and solid. You've got company alongside him, arguably one of the top 2 or 3 defenders in FIFA. A really excellent defender. Oh, that was a great corner. Nearly. But then, you've got the fullbacks. Clichy, more of an attacking fullback, very aggressive, pacey. That was a terrible header. And then Zabaleta on the other side, a little bit more solid, a little bit more reliable than Clichy defensively, but he doesn't have the attacking flair that Gale has. So that's a very, very nicely balanced back four. Obviously protecting England's #1, Joe Hart, in goal. So overall, that is a pretty tremendous defence. So that's the first thing they've got going in their favour. But then the midfield really is exceptional, especially now that they've got the updated squads and they have that guy with the absolutely monstrously bad first touch, Jesus Navas. What a great signing he is for Manchester City. I can't wait to see him in the Premier League next year. But he gives Man City something which they didn't have before, which is a real out-and-out winger. Because if you have a look at Manchester City's midfield personnel, they've got Nasri, they've got Silva, they've got Milner, they've got Yaya Toure. All of these are really good players, but they're all central midfielders. And what this meant was you had to play in a very, very limited style with a 4-2-2-2. You had to pass around, you had to create space through your intricate passing. By having Navas in the team, you now have a lot more flexibility. Because if things aren't going particularly well, if you can't get your passing going, nearly, you can just play a nice through ball to Navas and cross the ball into the box. So bringing Navas to the table really has made Manchester City an even better side. Scramble. Nearly. Get there, Jesus. Get there. Nearly again. So yeah, that was the thing. Midfielders have got so much better now. They really are a very, very nicely balanced team. And depending on what you're looking to do, you can be even more aggressive with this. But before I explain what I mean, sorry, I'll just get the ball back there, so focusing a little bit. I'm going to run you through who I've got currently in this side now. I've got Yaya Toure and James Milner sitting in the middle of the park. And then in the advanced roles, I've got Jesus Navas on the right and I've got David Silva on the left. And what you could do if you wanted to be slightly more aggressive with this formation... Am I on defensive? Yeah. But what you could do if you wanted to be slightly more aggressive with this formation is you could play Sami and Nasri in that holding role. Now, I definitely want to get Navas in one of the attacking roles, so that rules out one place. And I don't want to play David Silva in the holding role because he's too tricky and he's a little bit too lightweight to put in that defensive role, even alongside someone like Yaya Toure. So if you wanted to be a little bit more attacking, you could play Nasri in the CDM role. But what I've chosen to do is play Milner and not Vincent Kompany. Why do I keep saying Vincent Kompany? Yaya Toure in that role, because both of them are very, very good defensively. They've both got tremendous engines, so they can get up and down the park, and that's very, very important in this formation for reasons I'll explain in a little bit. But they can get up and down the park very, very well. They can pass as well, so they're not just one-trick ponies. They're not just ultimate defensive machines. They are nicely balanced players, so they can defend and they can attack. And looks like those two players are having the loving over there, but hopefully they get back to business soon. There we go, nice little pass. And spray it wide. But, that's why I've decided to go for them. Obviously, Navas, you know what he brings to the table. There we go, finally the goal. You know what he brings to the table. And David Silva on the other wing is very, very tricky. So that's the midfield. That's why I've gone for them. Two strikers up front. I've gone for Edin Dzeko and Sergio Aguero. Aguero is obviously the obvious choice. He's the highest rated striker at the football club. Tremendous technical ability. He's surprisingly powerful as well. He doesn't get brushed off the ball by very many opponents at all. So he's quick. He's technically gifted. Got a great shot on him. Great control. Great passing. All of that. He's a wonderful forward. But I've decided to go for Edin Dzeko instead of Carlos Tevez. And in this edition of the squad, Carlos Tevez is still a Manchester City player. I know he's joined Juve in real life, and that's a great save, Joe Hart. Terrible defending there. But you can still play him as a Manchester City player if you wish. But the reason why I've gone for Edin Dzeko is once again the flexibility thing. I already have one player who's going to be tricky and pacey, and that's Sergio Aguero. I want someone who's going to be a little bit different to that, and that was unfortunate. And Edin Dzeko certainly is that. So you've got, firstly, you have Sergio Aguero. My passing's really gone to the dogs today. But you've got Sergio Aguero, who's that tricky player. He can drop deep, he can link the play. But then you've got Edin Dzeko, who's a bit more of a lump up front. He's a bit more of a target man. He's still decent on the ball, he's no mug. He can knock it around and link the play up, as you can see here. Just like that, nice and easily. But at the same time, he's a much greater aerial threat than Aguero is. And when you have someone like Jesus Navas in the team who's going to be running beyond the fullback, running to the byline and putting crosses in, you really do want someone in that area to finish it off. And you've already seen Dzeko score one headed goal. He's got a couple of other chances where he really should have scored headed goals. So you can immediately see the threat there. So that's the team. That's why I've gone for who I have. And it's a nicely balanced team, which gives you a whole range of attacking options. And 4-2-2-2 does fall into that nicely balanced formation. But the thing is, it does take a teeny bit of getting used to because you don't have players in regular positions. If you look at most of the other common formations online, be it 4-1-2-1-2, be it 4-2-3-1, 4-3-1-2, any of the above really, what do they all have in common? They have a centre attacking midfielder, and you don't have a centre attacking midfielder in this formation. So if you enjoy playing in that way, and what's going on there, that was a bit fortunate. If you enjoy having that central player to be the centre point of your attacking movement and to really spray the ball around, you might miss that in this formation. But the versatility offered by this is pretty surprising, and a little bit more surprising than you perhaps first see, because you'd imagine a formation like this, you'd have to be quite direct, because you've got very, very advanced players, you've got those two forwards up front, and you'd have a bit of a gap in between the rest of your team. But in practice, you actually play this formation in quite a passing manner because your players are in unusual positions, and especially the two central attacking midfielders. And I call them central attacking midfielders because in Ultimate Team, they are classed as central attacking midfielders. So if you want to play this formation online in Ultimate Team, that's something you've got to be a little bit aware of. So if you do want to play a winger in position, you might have a little lower chemistry. But with players like Santi Cazorla, he's a great player to play there, just for a little bit of an aside. But these players, they aren't in a regular position. So they're sort of sitting in between the lines in a position which is very unusual to mark. And the good thing about this is, what normally happens with any team, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, fullbacks charge up the field. And that was a nice little ball. Oh, what have you done? What have I done? I have completely butchered that chance. Yeah, if only I had Aguero running through there with a few more silky skills. But You begin to see what happened there. My opponent charged his fullback up and he had a lot of space in behind the defence. And the good thing about having your attacking midfield players in that position is they are immediately there to exploit any weakness you have in there. So if you see your opponent's pushed up, and what a tremendous goal that was. A bit of dodgy defending, but still a really good goal. If you see that early, you can get that ball out with your feet, get it wide, and create chances nice and easily. So that's one of the major bonuses. The good thing about having these two CDMs sitting back as well is you're normally pretty solid in the middle. And I know I've balls up a little bit there, but most of the time you're not going to get overwhelmed in the middle because these two boys just sit in front of your back four and do a very, very good job. So, oh, go on, James, get through. Oh, very unlucky. Oh, yeah. I was expecting him to check. This is now a problem. I am on defensive here, so I'm not quite sure why they're being as aggressive as they are. That's fine. Managed to recover in the end. But the one thing you do have to be aware of when you're playing this formation is the fact that you can have your team cut in half a little bit. And this is because you have CDMs, the two guys sitting in front of your back four, and then you have two attacking midfielders. And I should have tried to draw the penalty again there, because I knew he was going to have a lunge. If I just waited a second or two, chances are I would have had a penalty, but never mind. Oh, what have I done with Gale? That was lucky. But yeah, that's one thing you've really got to be aware of. Because you have these players in slightly unusual positions, if you have, for example, an opponent using 3-5-2, who really packs that midfield, and that was the wrong option, I should have played that through the middle, you can really struggle to get the ball down in midfield. So that is one thing you've got to be aware of. However, to counter that, one of the benefits of doing this is if you can get players to drop off and to occupy that space, you can pull your opponent around even more than you did before. So Aguero, oh yes, it's in. I thought the keeper saved that. Wow, that's a keeping howler. But you saw what happened there. I dropped a little bit deeper with Aguero. Dzeko made the run beyond to keep the defence off me. I had the two players in wide areas, which stretched the defence out a little bit and gave me a little bit more space in the middle. And by the time they closed me down, it was too late. I could get the shot off on target. And yeah, the keeper could have done better with that. But you begin to see the patterns of play that you use in this formation with Manchester City. So that's what I'd recommend to do. Just on a quick side note, if you guys haven't seen my 4-2-2-2 formation tutorial, I would strongly recommend you check it out, because I use Man City in that gameplay as well. Admittedly, it's with a bit of an older squad, but it gives you a good overview of the formation where I specifically talk about the formation. So if you haven't checked that out, I really would recommend it. But you see here again, Navas in that slightly more advanced central role, plays the ball through, and I missed the chance again because I'm absolutely useless. But you begin to see, how effective those centre attacking midfielders are, either on the break or when you have the ball, against a set-up defence. And that's a cheeky little dink through. Oh, I've missed another one-on-one. See, my finishing really does go to the dogs, and I don't play much FIFA. When I've actually been playing, I bang most chances in. I'm pretty sharp. But you see here, this is what months of rustiness does to you. You cannot finish your dinner. You cannot hit a barn if you're standing inside the barn. And you end up missing a hat load of chances. But you can see how easily I'm tearing him apart with this formation. It's just so good on the attack. You've got so many options. And the good thing is as well, as long as you don't go too gung-ho and charge up field, you're always going to be relatively solid at the back, especially with Man City. They've got a tremendous back four, really good goalkeeper, and their two CDMs are very, very good at defending. So this really is a very, very nice formation. So if you haven't tried it, I would recommend it. It does take a little bit of getting used to, because like I mentioned earlier, you don't have the players in the traditional positions that you do with other formations, but the benefits of that far, far outweigh any downsides. That was a good challenge, a bit unlucky. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the formations you've really got to be careful about when you play with this is probably 3-5-2, possibly 4-2-3-1 as well. But the good thing with that formation is there's only one striker, so you're very, very unlikely to be overwhelmed at the back. And this is one of the problems. If you have an opponent with a big, strong midfield, and that's a good ball, that. If you have an opponent with a strong midfield, and finally I finish a one-on-one, there we go, only took 7 attempts. But if you have an opponent with a lot of players in midfield and 2 strikers up front, you can sort of get bogged down because you've run out of defenders to deal with all the threats. There's always going to be someone over, and chances are he can slot the ball in, create a one-on-one chance, or certainly have a decent chance from within that 25-yard zone or whatever. And I think this guy's finally got a bit frustrated. But, the vast majority of the time, on 3-5-2, on the break, you can really do damage. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Admittedly, you won't be as good in defence because you can possibly get overwhelmed, but remember, you've got those two central attacking midfielders in those advanced positions. Against a back three, when you've got two forwards and two central attacking midfielders, you can absolutely shred that back three as long as you can manoeuvre around those two CDMs. And don't forget, in a formation like 3-5-2, you've got those two CDMs in. Oh, he's missed. He's actually missed, Sergio. You are woeful. But as long as you can keep the ball wide, drag those two CDMs out the way, drag the players wide, and then put that little through ball through to the striker running on through, you can have a great success rate against 3-5-2 as well. So it's a nice formation. It works really, really well against a host of opponents. A couple of formations you've got to be wary about and understand your own weaknesses. But once you've got used to it, this really is a great formation. You can see this game. I could have won this game 10-1. If only I could finish, I would be deadly, but never mind. It's a pretty solid performance so far, as long as I don't concede 2 goals late. I don't see Julian Lescott over Nastasic every day. It's a bad touch, Dzeko. Bad touch. But yeah, this formation definitely fits the personnel best, because I don't like using a formation with 2 out-and-out wingers, because like I mentioned earlier, Man City don't have 2 out-and-out wingers. Before, they didn't even have 1, but now they've got Navas. You can sort of get away with having Silva in this role. And I'm going to try something cheeky. That was rubbish. But you can sort of get away with having them in this role. Ooh, nearly. Win that header. Ugh, great pass. But yeah, very nicely balanced side. No weaknesses. A variety of attacking options. You know, depth on the bench. Now, I've got Sami and Nasri on the bench here. So if I wanted to change up, if I wanted to be a bit more attacking, I'd take Milner off, put Nasri on. Or I could put Nasri in the centre attacking midfielder and take Navas off if he was tired or injured, if I just wanted to be a bit more passing instead of a bit more direct. So you've got a multitude of options of really, really good players in a very, very versatile formation. So guys, that's going to be the end of the video. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've learnt a little bit of how to play with Manchester City. You can see there, every single player in that team had a decent rating, and this is what you can do with this formation. Everyone can contribute. You don't just have one attacking path. You can pass, you can be direct up to Dzeko, you can nice intricate play in and around the penalty area, or you can slot players like Navas and Aguero through, be a bit more direct on the floor, get crosses into the box for Dzeko, and then Aguero, Silva picks up the scraps just while Milner and Chore sit in front of that back four and control the play from the midfield. So guys, once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and as always, have a great day.